What's going on? What's going on?
Entertain the Geeky.
Freeze frame. Gotta jump in the sky. Freeze frame.
Guys, what's going on?
What's up?
So we said we would be talking about the League of Regrettable Superheroes. And
Comics were weird.
very weird. Well, and they're always weird. Okay, like if
Well, I mean, sure, but we had ideas back in the day in the golden and silver age that were just like, what?
off
There was
kilter,
a character called Hormone Man.
Yes.
Hormone Man.
I think it was Dr. Hormone is what they called him. Or
I
was it
thought he
Hormone
was just
Man?
Hormone Man.
I don't know. We can refer to the archives.
Yeah, I was gonna
here.
say, I thought he was just Hormone Man.
I thought it was Dr.
There was a
Hormone.
couple that stuck out to me. There's a couple even in there that I knew.
Right.
That I had been familiar with, right? Because one of the things that this book sparked in me is looking into how some of these characters, not these characters in the book specifically, but
Yeah, Dr. Hormone.
Dr. Hormone.
I thought so.
Yeah, Dr. Hormone. All right, my bad. I thought it was Hormone Man.
Dr. Hormone, we apologize.
But all these characters in the public domain now, mostly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're. In fact, I was watching someone talk about this, and they said there's a comic history museum. If you Google like comics museum on Google,
Yeah.
you can find a place where people have archived old comics that are in the public domain.
Oh my God.
Download them and actually read them.
That's fantastic.
which is ridiculous. It sent me down a little bit of a rabbit hole when I was looking
I'll
into it.
try to find a link for that so you guys can do that.
It's weird, man. Like but one of the things that I think is fascinating, right? And one of the things that, again, the book made me think about was a lot of older characters. Some writers are kind of reviving and making integral parts of the story again. One of the big ones is Black Hand. Black Hand was a character from the 60s, a Green Lantern villain. It was just a throwaway villain. He had this little device that allowed him to like siphon off Green Lantern energy and shoot it back at Green Lantern. And he was just a goofy throwaway character. Well, then we got to Jeff Johns and Blackest Night, and Black Hand became the most important character in that story. He was the doorway to darkness.
One off camera, you were talking about Kite Man.
Kite Man, yeah. Kite Man had a resurgence during Tom King's run on Batman. And he's a goofy character. He's kind of one of those super hetero ladies man type characters, at least the way they write him.
Yeah, right.
If you watch the Harley Quinn television animated television show, he's popped up in there, constantly hitting on Harley Quinn as a goofy little man's man type character. But Polka Dot Man's another one, right? One of the, if you saw the Suicide Squad, Polka Dot Man was a very tragic, interesting character within the layers of that story. But he had also had a resurgence within Suicide Squad books prior to that.
Hells yeah.
So it's weird to, and I wonder how much of it is, because most of these characters in here are public domain characters, right?
Yes.
So they're not licensed by anybody.
I
you don't
think-
have to pay to use their likeness or anything like that.
I think that's part of why he just kind of stuck them all in the book like that. He probably didn't have to ask permission or anything
Well, right.
like
So
that.
I wonder if bringing some of these older characters back was a way to avoid that, was a way to relicense them. Obviously writers kind of work their things into the story, but I wonder if there's something going on a little higher than them that says, hey, if you can find a way to use Kite Man, we're about to lose the rights to Kite Man, and he could be an interesting. Like, I don't know why anybody would think Kite Man would be an interesting character.
I mean, they've done it with movie rights for sure.
Right? Yeah. To like hold on to it for a little longer. I mean, Disney has fought time and time again against characters like Mickey Mouse entering the public domain,
Right?
Because he should have. I mean, based on
How old he
original
is.
public domain laws and how old Mickey Mouse is, he should have entered the public domain 10 years ago.
Yeah,
But Disney fought to keep that from happening.
well, so it's supposed to happen with Superman and Captain America in the very near future here as well.
So I don't think that I think as long as they are still licensed, they can't be public domain.
So
right, but I think there is something to be like the early appearances in the public domain. Yes, the character itself is. I think that's what Disney has fought to change.
The character will change. So like the public domain versions of them will be the original Superman with the black,
Right, like
with the
Steamboat
black,
Willie
yes.
is should be public domain.
Yeah.
Right, to be utilized however you would like to use it. It's not, because Disney has fought very hard to keep that from happening in Florida and in California, where their companies are based. But
It's probably why they put him in the intro of every Disney movie.
well, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's specific to the character. I think it's about
about
early
Mickey Mouse.
appearances,
Yeah.
right, of the character should be public domain by now.
Sure.
I'm not really sure how the public domain laws work in this country, but I know Disney has fought hard to change them and keep Mickey Mouse within their company.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Because imagine what people would do with Mickey Mouse, right?
Be fantastic. Well, I mean, it just happened with Winnie the Pooh. We had that Winnie the Pooh horror movie.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
So,
sure. Yeah.
because he just became public domain. So yeah, I think in the near future here, as more of these things become public domain, it will like I know Superman is. I think it's in the next 5 years that Superman. I don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but I was
a character from the 40s.
30s.
30s?
Yeah, 38, I think, 39.
Action Comics #1?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it would be his original power set, not his current power set. So he could leap a building in a single bound
Right.
and
You have to
stuff
remember,
like that.
too, that Superman is not current Superman.
Right.
That Superman was from a different Earth.
Right.
So losing the rights to that Superman doesn't change anything about what's going on with the Superman they have in the comics now.
Sure.
The modern interpretation of Superman didn't come about until Crisis on Infinite Earths, where we understood that all the Golden Age characters were actually from a different Earth.
Sure.
So his race to the public domain started in the 70s as opposed to the 30s.
Anywho, we'll jump back into that.
Yes,
So
yes.
talking about the League of Regrettable Superheroes by John Morris, the book was done in very clever fashion.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It's interesting because you can open. I mean, I think it's a good coffee table type book.
Fantastic
right?
coffee table
You
book.
could just open to any random page and go, "Oh, Phantoman,"
Yeah, funny.
and read a few pages about Phantoman.
Yeah, and then set it down and go about your
Yeah,
life.
exactly. Ideally, what you would do is you would want this to surprise you, right? So you wouldn't.
yeah.
I read the whole thing because
Yeah.
you asked me to. But ideally, I think if you're a casual, put this on your table and just open it randomly, right? Don't read it cover to cover. Just open it randomly to any random page and read that excerpt, right?
Well, one of the things that I thought was so interesting about it is John actually he wrote everything in here like he gave a shit. Like he's very well spoken.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of tongue in cheek, I think.
a lot of it is for sure. But
yeah.
it was
He
fun.
was clearly having fun.
It was campy,
Yeah.
but it was just great, man. I was like, good job, John. Like,
Yeah, no, I really feel like it's a good history lesson for the world of comics. If you're a comic fan today and you've never looked into the history of comic, you're doing yourself a great disservice.
Oh my God,
because it's wild.
it's so different. Well, it's funny because like I'll talk to an uninitiated friend about some things that are happening in comics now.
Sure.
The Eye is one of my favorites in there, by the way.
The Eye.
But I'll talk to them about what's going on in comics now, and they're like, what the fuck, and how did it get from Peter Parker being a high schooler to here?
Yes.
And I'm like, I get it. I hear where you're coming from.
Well, and there are things. One
50
of the things
years.
One of the things I was looking for that I remember from the book.
Yeah.
That really because you can look at these characters and see, oh, definitely some of them inspired some real characters.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The one that really stood out to me, where are we at? 70. The Fab Four.
Yeah, I wonder.
The Fab Four.
I wonder what they sparked.
Anyway, see Fab Four. Yeah, because there's ideas that ended up on the cutting room floor, but it's all parody of each other, right?
Right.
I mean,
Well, and if this idea was pitched to somebody and they were like, "Gosh, that's fucking stupid," but then like a year later they were thinking about it and they're like, "Man, maybe a team of four is not a bad idea."
Right.
Maybe the Fabulous Four is just a little,
the Fab Four seemed a little weird.
not
yeah.
tough.
The Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
That sounds much better.
That sounds fucking super all of a sudden.
So yeah, it's interesting to see not only these weird obscure characters, but to see how some of them clearly inspired or have been utilized in other ways, right? I mean, there's characters in here that I remember seeing in Dynamite's Project Superpowers book.
Yeah.
That were just resurrected from the golden age of comics because Dynamite had the rights to a bunch of things like the Phantom and the Shadow and all of the old pulpy stuff. So it's funny to see, that's again why I knew some of the characters as I was going along, because I read Project Superpowers.
Right.
So I got to a couple of them and I was just like, oh, you're a Project Superpowers character. Let me read about you because I don't know where you came from,
That's
But it was
incredible.
fun. It's a really good read. it's a really good, like I said, if you've never looked into the history, you should.
No,
this is a good place to start.
Yeah, one, they have one about supervillains and another one about
so
sidekicks.
what I saw in researching this and looking into it was you got a Loot Crate version.
I did.
So the actual book has all of that content in it. The actual book is much thicker. And it's got supervillains and sidekicks in it as well.
Really? So you can buy them? Because when I was digging into it a little bit, I saw that you could buy them as individual books. I didn't know if they were all Loot Crate specials because there's...
No, there was an actual published book that was not... They shrunk them down for the Loot Crates, right? And just sectioned them off, the superheroes, the sidekicks, and the villains.
Interesting.
The actual book was much thicker and has all of that content in it.
That's fucking rad. Yeah. Well, this is sat on my shelf for... years. I didn't really fuck with it. I was like, I don't need to. I'm not gonna read that.
You got into the Loot Crate craze. Not everything in the Loot Crate was what you wanted. It was just nonsense.
But this is like something that I found that I needed, and now I'm like, oh, I got to get the others because I do want them to be my coffee table books.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like the bathroom books, you know.
Well, yeah, and if you think the superhero stuff is wild, as I was researching some of the stuff, the sidekick and the villain stuff is even more ridiculous.
That's amazing. Amazing.
But it was fun. Yeah, it was a fun read. I'm glad you passed it my way and had me check it out.
Yeah, it was like you said, it was very campy, very tongue in cheek, but cute, fun, easy to pick up. You can literally flip to just about any page in the book, not be lost. Get a little history lesson.
It's not an ongoing narrative that he presents here to teach you about these characters.
No.
It's excerpts. It's small parts, couple of 2 or 3 pages each that just kind of explain to you how the characters came to be, what books they were utilized in, it is. He's very tongue in cheek. It's fun.
Do you have a favorite like B-flick character that's kind of come to light?
Doesn't
have to be out of here, but just in general.
I mean, it's hard to say in general, right? Because my immediate go-to would be Black Hand, right? Because this is a character who was laughable, right, and became such an integral part, became the main villain of a very big crossover that they had been building to for a while. But if it came to ones that are silly, probably Kite Man. I mean, I keep going back to Kite Man. I know that's weird, right? But I think he's such a thing from a bygone era. You know what I mean? Where the men had to talk a specific way, how they spoke to women was very specific, and it's bad. It's sexist as hell, for sure. But they've not changed him. They've kept him the same way as this kind of man out of time character who just doesn't understand modern sensibilities or relationships or any of that kind of stuff. He just still thinks it's the 1950s. And he talks that way.
He just is who he is. And he's lighting up cigarettes on planes. No.
But yeah, he's a funny character. And he's just a goofy guy with a green suit and a kite on his back that he uses to glide through the sky. Yeah. Which seems in and of itself just ridiculous. Like, that's not how physics works.
No. But it's fun.
It is fun.
It is so fun.
Within this book, I think the one that made me laugh the most was the eye.
He's
right on the cover.
I was the same fucking way. So
he made me laugh the most. I was just like, what?
I'm sitting here reading about the eye, and I'm like, this is the worst character I've ever heard of. And I want to read more about him.
And it's such a weird alien thing. It reminded me of Dupe. You know who Dupe is?
No. Who's
so there
Dupe?
was a story called Ecstatics that Peter Milligan wrote, and it just introduced some mutants that just could never exist in normal society.
Sure.
They're kind of like a more modern Morlocks.
Okay.
Right? But they were a superhero team. They formed a superhero team, and it was funny. In almost every issue, someone died and was immediately replaced by some other rando character in the very next issue.
Right.
But Dupe was a weird little alien thing that's just kind of a blob. He looks like Slimer, kind of.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, he only has the one eye. So my immediate seeing the eye made me go, this is weird, but they're still doing weird shit like this.
Oh, 100%.
Right? I thought of Dupe, and I was like, that's an example of how things that were considered strange and were left long ago come back around.
Well, I was actually I just watched a video about Rob Liefeld. Is that how you say it?
Rob Liefeld.
Liefeld, yeah. And how
hate that guy.
He's a love-hate guy for a lot of people.
I don't hate the man. I think he's probably a nice guy. He's just a terrible artist, and I don't understand how he keeps getting work.
So his art early on was better than the art that came out. Hold on. I like this video actually chronicled when he started. His shit was more realistic.
I have his early work, and it looks just like his modern work.
He has not evolved at all. It got more and more ridiculous because he would try to do these wild things so that he could do the page layouts very different. And
okay, but as a penciler, he's bad.
Yeah, I'm not.
He doesn't know how to draw the human body.
He's not my.
He's the one that gave us that Captain America with the giant chest.
Goddamn right.
He's the one that can't draw feet. I literally opened up a Deathstroke issue that he drew that opened on Lobo, sitting in a cantina eating, and he had 2 left hands.
Good.
Like, seriously, both of his hands sitting on the table were like, how do you keep getting work, bro? Also, how did you not notice that when you were drawing it? These are the kind of things I'm talking about. He's just a bad artist, and for some reason, people keep hiring him.
It's the name. He was.
It's the name? It's not like he's the son of someone famous.
Don't have to be.
Like John Romita Jr., who's also pretty bad at what he does.
He blew up in the 90s. When
he blew up because of Image. Yeah, let's be honest. Liefeld had some work.
He was blowing up before Image when he was with Marvel.
Sure, Liefeld had some work with Marvel, but it wasn't until Image that he became a household name.
But he was dumping characters out into the Marvel universe like it was going out of fucking style.
Yeah, he created Deadpool.
Yeah, I know.
He's credited as one of the creators of Deadpool. He didn't design. He designed the look of the character.
It was a shit ton of different characters that he did, and it's so interesting because we did get a Deadpool out of it.
Yeah,
and these guys will go in there and randomly do shit like that. And nobody gave a fuck about Deadpool for a long time.
Just because at the beginning, Deadpool was not the Deadpool we know today.
No, not at all.
He was just a mercenary.
Yes.
And he was like a serious guy.
For a couple of issues at that. He wasn't like
New Mutants 98.
Yeah.
Where they introduced him. And all the rest of the stuff he was in as part of the New Mutants, he was like a serious guy.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't until he became part of the Weapon X program
that he became the merc with a mouth.
His brains got scrambled, and he's self-aware now that he's in a comic book.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, having that stuff happen has been really cool, and like, a guy like that I could totally see being in a book like this.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe
50 years from now. When we're talking about the regrettable superheroes of today.
Of fucking 94.
In a book like this.
Yes, 100%. I mean, we're not that far from it at this point. Fuck, the 90s were 30 years ago. Early 90s anyway.
I mean, it's true. But see, the problem is a lot of the staples that became part of comics in the 90s are still going strong.
No, they are. They are.
You know what I mean? Like, Wolverine still wears that goofy yellow and blue costume, and he switches it out with the orange and tan one every now and again, and he wears the X-Force one that's just black and gray.
Yeah.
But we still occasionally see him in that ridiculous yellow costume. Where did that come from? The 90s, when everything had to be bright and colorful.
Goddamn right. So
Cyclops has recently taken to wearing his classic 90s costume in the comics as well.
Oh, has he really?
With the little thing coming across with the X. That's how he always talked to people. Like, get a communicator and his little X.
You need a bunch of pockets on you.
Well, that was a Liefeld thing too.
I know it was.
Having Liefeld and guys like Liefeld and Brett Booth really were the guys who gave us the pouches on everything. Cable literally has a little leg thing that has pouches. I'm like, that's not convenient to be able to access on a regular basis in the midst of battle.
Listen, you're not a superhero. You can't make that assumption.
I can make that assumption. You need a belt. A belt like Batman's with little pouches on it. That's fine. But every time I have to bend over to get to my leg pouch, come on.
You ran out of fucking hip pouches.
Now I got to get to my leg pouch.
Yeah.
In the midst of battle.
That's never happened to you before.
No. Because that's not how it works.
When I'm out in public and I'm fucking fighting crime, I will randomly be like, oh no, I'm out. And then I'll have to go to my leg pouch. My ankle pouch. Scarlet Spider had the stupid ankle pouch.
Oh my God, it was so bad. Yeah, Liefeld also likes to think he's way more important than he is, and that just rubs me the wrong way. Like, when Deadpool 1 and 2 came out, he was on set, and he was like talking about things that he probably shouldn't have been talking about. But no big deal, right? 20th Century Fox, I guess, was not that worried. Anything that people were talking about was going to make more hype for the movie.
Sure.
Disney, however, is very secretive about the things that they do. They want to preserve as much of what this new Deadpool film will be. And so Liefeld teased I'm going to talk about this on my AMA on Wednesday. And Disney in the interim days said, No, you're not.
This is what a cease and desist looks like.
Right. No, you're not going to talk about
Remember
this.
all that paperwork we had you sign?
And if you continue to pretend or try to talk about this, guess who's not going to be on the set anymore? You.
Yeah, you know what's so hysterical about that though? So like going into all of that, as soon as they fucking start filming set photos are everywhere.
Well, sure, but that's look, I can see the costume and that's great.
Yeah.
But the context of the scene, I have no idea what that context of that scene is.
Got a pretty good idea that fucking Deadpool and Wolverine are duking it out.
I think they're best friends. I think this is going to be a buddy road trip.
I think it turns
buddy cop multiversal road trip.
I think it turns into a buddy cop movie, but I think it starts off with some friction.
I really hope they pull off the line that is one of the most classic Deadpool Wolverine moments. It comes from Messiah War in X-Force.
Okay.
And they went to the future, and Deadpool was one of the people who was still alive because he's immortal. He just
he
can't
doesn't die. Yeah.
And Wolverine managed to sneak up on him and shoves his claws through his face. Like we see the 3 claws coming out of his face. And he just goes, "Logan, are you a telepath now? I can feel you in my head."
It's fantastic.
And it's a beautiful line, and I love it, and I hope they put it in the movie because it's a great line.
I think they will do something along those lines. Oh, you're inside of me.
Right.
You know,
Sure.
something dirty.
Yeah. But I do think the costume, we're off track, but I do think the costume looks great.
It
Everyone
does.
always said that yellow and blue costume would look silly on a real person. I think it looks fucking awesome. Yeah.
Who was it? Bat in the Sun did a goddamn good. It was one of their superhero beatdown things.
So yes, but they did the X-Force costume, the
They did.
black and the gray, which looks fine, right? That looks great. That's a Batman costume on Wolverine, right?
One, it still has the shapes that you want to be Wolverine.
Right, but I don't think that's what everybody ever complained about. It was always not necessarily how the costume looks. It was that bright color scheme is just will not look good on a live action person. I disagree. I think it looks great. I think it looks really great.
Fuck yeah, it does.
They even teased the brown and tan costume or the orange and tan costume in the Wolverine from a deleted scene where he's on the plane and he opens that case.
He opens the case, yeah.
And it's got that orange and tan costume with the cowl.
So I do have to say that like the fact that Hugh Jackman's doing it again it's bittersweet because Logan was so fucking good. I really enjoyed Logan, and that would have been the best way to retire it. Retire your Wolverine, like you said, you were
retiring Professor Xavier, retiring Wolverine.
Yeah.
It was a great, and everybody else was already dead, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, but then Professor X came back to do that fucking cameo and that silly movie.
It's not a universe though.
Yeah, I know.
I loved that cameo.
Oh no,
don't be talking shit on that cameo. That cameo was fantastic.
I'm not.
He even did that
whole scene was fucking great. Right? Everything that happened
in the cartoon and in the old comics, we had to have a way to show telepathy, right? So it became this. It became, I'm going to put my hand here and I'm going to reach out. That's how I use my telepathy.
You can't do telepathy like this.
But they would also do the little waves coming off him, and they did that in the movie. There's a moment where he's using his powers, and you can see the little waves coming off his head. I was just like, this is fucking brilliant. This is great.
What scientist has created
whatever you think about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I personally enjoyed it.
I liked the movie.
I had a good time with the movie. But whether you like it or not, Xavier killed it.
No. The worst
Patrick Stewart kills it.
The worst part of that entire movie was Haley Atwell getting cut in half right after she said, "I could do this all day."
Oh, sure.
It's like, well, that sucks.
Well, I think that was what most people were disappointed by is, well, Scarlet Witch shouldn't be more powerful but yeah, she is. She definitely is. She's the most powerful character in the Marvel Universe, and she always has been.
Yes.
That's not new.
No.
Right? If she wanted to, she could kill them all.
Yes.
Absolutely. She used her powers to alter the entire world's brains. Everyone in the world's brains got altered because she wanted to create a world where mutants were supreme. Mm-hmm. House of M is born. She did that WandaVision thing to the whole world. Put every brain on the planet in her illusion.
She does what
she is
she
the
wants.
most powerful person in the Marvel Universe. So yes, could she kill all 6 of those? But yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
5. I think she only faced 5.
I think it was 5 of them.
Because Mordo was watching Doctor Strange.
Yeah, no, she could totally kick their asses.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone said, oh, Mr. Fantastic and Black Bolt. Yes, absolutely.
So Mr. Fantastic and Black Bolt are total badasses. There's no doubt about it.
Sure.
And so is Professor X.
Yeah.
It's still, she's different.
Well, yeah, and Professor X operates in the astral plane.
Right.
The people that use chaos magic, the astral plane is their home. It's where they hone their abilities, right? Like, you got nothing on her in the astral plane. Now, the argument can be made, the only one that doesn't make sense is Professor Xavier.
Sure.
Right? But again, if you think about the fact that telepathy and these kind of powers exist in the astral plane, when she was learning from the book, all of that time was spent in the astral plane.
Right. And she would have this bond with that place that's probably beyond what Professor X would ever have.
Slips into it as a result of using his powers to enter someone's brain. But you entered the wrong brain, bud. This is the brain that can fight you.
Nah, a fucking crazy one.
Right. We got way off topic, though.
We did.
We were talking about a book. It's a good book. You should read the book.
Get a copy.
Yes. And get the thicker copy. Look and make sure, because there is a copy that has all 3 of these little teeny books, right? This is not tiny by any stretch of the imagination.
Probably, 100, 120 pages, something like that. It's not giant.
Let's look. There's a page count, 126.
There you go.
US1. Oh my God. These are ridiculous characters in this ridiculous book. But check out the bigger one that's got the sidekicks and the villains, because as I was going down that rabbit hole, man, it's weird.
Yeah, I after seeing that there were more, I was like, I have to have all of them now.
Yeah, if you buy those little ones, though, those are the ones that came in loot crates, like randomly.
I didn't know that they had divided one book up into multiples. I figured they had made an omnibus after that.
No. The original book was thick. Like, it had all of that content in there. They parsed it out to give you a loot crate thing every month.
I hope John Morris made a bunch of fucking money on that. He probably
It seems pretty popular from what I've seen, right?
No,
from the rabbit hole I went down in researching this.
There's like a cult following for it for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if every comic fan is super into it, or at least our regular listeners. I don't know if they are.
Again, you should look into the history, right? Mm-hmm. That is what I think this book did best for me. Is it allowed me a peek behind the curtain into the history of comics that I just didn't know.
Right. Yeah. When you open up your mind's eye and you go into the fucking 30s, 40s, 50s, and
I've read Action Comics #1. Right. I've read Amazing Fantasy 15. I've read Detective Comics 27. They're weird. They're not different. These are not the characters you know today.
No.
And you're doing yourself a disservice to not see those early appearances. X-Men #1 from 63. Weird and awesome. Again, it does assault your modern sensibility, right?
Oh, big time.
Keep in mind, it was a different time.
Yeah, we're talking, 50, 70, 80 years ago.
Sure. So there are some things where I think buyer beware, right? I think if you go into this thinking, this is just going to be great, it's not all great.
Sure.
I mean, shit, Dr. Hormone is a perfect example of why not all of it was great. We tried to use it as different things for different people, right? There were people that tried to use the comic industry as a way to teach you things about your body, your changing bodies, about drugs. Shit, the cover of that Green Lantern, Green Arrow issue literally has Speedy needle in his arm shooting up, right? I mean, comics back then, the focus was never on ongoing storytelling.
Right.
It was more on...
It was episodic.
It was more on an episodic basis. So every now and again, we got a weird one that was just trying to teach you something, right? Don't do drugs, kids. Winners don't do drugs. How many times do you remember Captain America? You're right in the middle of your Marvel comic book, and all of a sudden you turn to a page that has Captain America on it, so you assume it's still part of the comic, and it's not. It's just him telling kids don't do drugs.
Hey, if you ever thought about doing drugs... Fucking don't. Do something else.
Okay. Do what we say, not what we do. Drugs are great. No, they're not. God. They're not great. Some drugs are great. Other drugs are terrible. Is that something I can tell the audience? Some drugs are great.
I'll tell you what, man. If you've ever had a headache and you pop an ibuprofen, you might be really grateful for that drug at that point in time. If you've had to go on antibiotics or something like that.
If you've ever been super stressed out and you smoked a big fatty joint, you'll understand why some drugs are great.
Yeah. You ever had a stressful week at work, so you go home and crack open a beer?
Yeah. It's drugs.
Fucking nice.
It's drugs.
It's all drugs.
Don't do drugs, except the cool ones. Anyway...
What's the best one? Tell us.
Why don't you tell us down below in the comments what your favorite drugs are?
And this one gets fucking yanked off of
This
YouTube.
one will get flagged by YouTube and
they're
get pulled.
They're gonna be like, oh, these dipshits are telling everybody.
Whatever. We don't have a big enough profile that YouTube's paying attention to us yet.
Look, we're not saying to use drugs.
Okay, I mean, if we have to say we're not saying to use drugs, do we have to say that?
I don't know what we have to say.
I don't know.
I mean, we don't have to say anything. We get to. Here's the thing. Half of this is just audio that goes up into Entertain the Geeky space,
Well, right.
and can say whatever we want. And it's no secret that you smoke pot. It's no secret that I
we
drink.
We also exist again in this weird place where we have somewhat of a following, but not a large enough following yet to where YouTube's actually paying attention to what our content is.
When it's one of those funny things where it's like, okay, if I was talking to my kids, I'd be like, hey, wait until your brain's done developing. That's my whole thing. I know realistically they're probably going to experiment at some point in time or another.
Everybody tries drugs,
and
everybody tries sex. Everybody do.
I get
these things.
And
We're
I'm just
teenagers.
like, wait till your brain's done. I didn't try pot for the first time till I was 25.
I smoked pot for the first time when I was 13.
Yeah, didn't like it. Wasn't for me.
I loved it.
Yeah,
From the very first moment, I was just like, "This is a great drug.
This is for me.
This is for me."
We are so far off. Oh,
yes. Anyway, read
Captain
the book.
America. Yeah, read this book.
League of Regrettable Superheroes by John Morris.
If you have, if you've already read it, tell us who your favorite regrettable superhero is.
Yes, there's some good ones.
There are some
really
very good ones.
And again, there's some that are they're still around in other forms, which is interesting.
Yeah, they've morphed.
Yeah, they just become something else. I mean, tell me this guy, this guy right here in the corner is not just the Shadow.
Right.
That's the Shadow, right?
For sure.
Like, that was the first thing I said. I was like, is the Shadow? Because the Shadow didn't fade to obscurity. He's
not
definitely still
regrettable.
part of,
Yeah.
This is Lord Deadman. This guy down here. This is Lord Deadman, right? That's not what his name is in this book, but there's a character called Lord Deadman. Look him up. He's this guy. He even has a sidekick, which this guy does too.
This is Lord Deadman.
That's who he is.
That's
He's
a
called
horrible
Lord
fucking
Deadman.
name, though. I know.
This was his
Somebody
name.
could you imagine being in that writing room and they're like, what are you going to call this guy?
Lord
Lord
Deadman.
And they're like, yeah, Lord what? And, he's a skeleton, so dead, and he's male, so man. He's going to be Lord Deadman.
Lord Deadman. That's his name. and check out, like I said, Google the Comic History Museum or Comic Museum or something. I don't remember what the exact keywords were. I assume comic and museum will probably get you there. Comic book and museum.
I'll try to put some links in the descriptions and stuff here so you guys can indulge in some of this.
Well, and you can download, like, this whole project is about preserving the things that have entered the public domain that we would never have otherwise seen again, right?
Right.
We would, in their original form, let me say.
Sure.
Because the public domain means you could use the character for whatever you want.
Yeah.
So I may see the character, we'll never see those original things again. And I think this and the website is a good way to kind of deep dive into the history.
Get into it, folks.
It's wild. It's fucking wild.
Guys, go to entertainthegeeky.com. You can follow us on all of our social media there. There you can also get your own copy of Merle's Truck Stop in Maine through the end of July here. Okay? After July's over, no more free. You use the promo code GEEKY.
Geeky. Sorry, it's right there. So it's in front of you. So it's in front. So
there.
it's overlaid over you.
Fucking, it's
You just do
it's
this.
this way.
Ha!
Here.
Ha! We're way too nerdy.
Yeah, use that promo code. Enjoy it. Get some playtime in. And as always, stay geeky. I'll let that run for a second.
Okay. Bonus content.
Bonus. Bonus. Did you do anything good this week? Any new stuffs?
We got back issues for our back issue bin from Paul. That was cool.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, I got to go out and like go through some boxes, and ultimately we bought 10 boxes from him of
That's sweet.
some modern, some last 5 year stuff, some 80s, 90s stuff, just a swath of different
So you've
things.
got a little variety.
Well, the goal is when we open to look like we've been here forever.
Sure.
Right? So when you open the drawer, it's full already. There's stuff in there. Even though I haven't pulled anything off the wall to put in there.
Right.
It's full. There's stuff in there. And I went through a couple of the boxes. I was trying to start organizing things. I ran out of time. But some of the stuff's good. Like, it's good 80s, 90s stuff. It's not valuable, but it's good, like, just weird reads from the 80s and 90s. There's some Ultimate stuff in there, which excited me, which is why I took that one box. I came across a big swath of Ultimate books. And I was like, this is a box I'm taking.
Consider it done. Yeah,
I did find an interesting gem when I was going through one of the boxes, a Star Wars Shadows of the Empire Kenner special.
Holy shit.
So it's made out of newsprint.
Okay.
The only way to get them was to buy a toy set. Darth Vader versus Prince Zixer and Chewbacca versus some bounty hunter character. I don't know. It was weird 2 sets. And they each came with this comic book. Each one of the comics had a different cover to kind of illustrate the set, right? So the Darth Vader Prince Zixer set had Darth Vader and Prince Zixer on the cover, or Zizor, however you say that guy's name.
Sure.
But it's actually kind of valuable. So I called Paul and was like, hey, I don't know if you meant to leave this in here, but this has had a resurgence lately and it's going for like $90, $100 in this condition. And he was like, you keep it. You just keep it. You, Jason, keep it. And I was like, okay, I will. And I think Paul is wont to do those kinds of things for me because he knows I'm not going to sell it.
Right.
I'm not looking to make money off of anything. I collect things. I keep them. I don't sell them. I have sold comics to Paul before, but not for any kind of profit. I sold them because I was getting married and I needed some extra cash.
Sure.
You know what I mean? To pay off some things that were going on, photographers and
wedding shit, which is
DJs
very expensive.
And, caterers, that kind of stuff.
The brutal
that
part
was a sell of necessity, not to get rich. And I don't ever think I'm going to get rich with comic books, right? I mean, I do have some things that are valuable right now. Like I have Ultimate Fallout #4, which is the first Miles. That comic's probably valuable. It's probably a couple $100.
Yeah.
Not going to break the bank or anything.
I'm sure you have Edge of the Spider-Verse 4 or whatever, first appearance of Spider-Gwen.
2. It's 2.
Is it 2?
Edge of Spider-Verse 2. I do have that.
That's $500 ungraded. I saw the other day.
Yeah, raw.
That's fucking insane.
Spider-Gwen's huge, man. It's all about those characters that not only first appeared, but stayed around and made an impact.
I'm half tempted to sell mine right now.
Yeah, I mean, I have first Riri Williams. I have first Kamala Khan. I have first, there's another one in the vein of Sam Alexander Nova.
Jeez.
But these are all characters that are modern, new characters that stuck around, right? So I was reading anyway. I was picking them up. And then when someone said, oh, that's the first appearance of Miss Marvel, I went, it is? Cool.
Neat.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't care. You were going to read it regardless.
Yeah, it was part of a book. It was part of Captain Marvel, and I was reading Captain Marvel.
Oh, dude, Captain Marvel was so good at that point in time, too.
Yeah, that was when Kelly Sue DeConnick came in and kind of rejiggered her origin a little bit and kind of gave us who the modern interpretation of Carol is today. So, yeah, it was just, little things like that I didn't even know were valuable books until someone told me, right? First appearance of Riri Williams was valuable. After she appeared in Black Panther, that one went up. Not a lot, but it went up.
As much, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Take it.
When you had a comic that had a $3.99 price tag on it, you could sell it for a couple $100. It's pretty good ROI.
You fucking slayed. No, so right after, I guess it was probably 6 to 8 months after that first appearance of Spider-Gwen came out. I was clearing out old polls.
Yeah.
And there was a copy of it, and I fucked up so bad because I only have one copy of it. I wasn't a dick that went and cleaned everything out.
Sure.
So I find one in this poll that we're liquidating, and I walk up to the manager, and I was like, hey, I found this. I should have just bought it.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't.
Strike while the iron's hot, bro.
Yeah, I didn't. I was like, I found this, and he's like, all right, well, I think I've got somebody that wanted that one. I'll call him and let him know he can get it at cover price. And I was like, motherfucker!
I should have just bought it.
I should have. I didn't. But you know what? Whatever,
Edge
man.
Spider-Verse, that's an interesting one because that's how I first met Paul. Paul Gabani, Cloud9 Comics.
Oh, yeah. He came in to buy all of them.
He grabbed every copy off the shelf.
Yeah.
There was
you were like, no.
9 of them. And I was like, yeah, nah, I'll sell you 2.
Sure.
And he was like, why can't I have all of them? I said, because there are people that want to read it, man. Like I have customers it was Thursday.
Yeah.
The day after the book came out. I'm like, there's people that still haven't come in this week that are going to want to read it. I'm not selling you all of them because I want to be accommodating. And he was like, well, can my wife buy 2 as well? And I was just like, yeah, sure. Whatever. I don't care. So I also met his wife for the first time that day. But my initial impression of this guy was, fucking hate you, bro. You flipper asshole who doesn't care about the comic at all.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, he doesn't care about the comic at all. My mind has changed on that now, and it's like, look, no, I'll take your money. You want to buy 10 copies of the book? Sure, take them. I don't care.
Sure.
But early on in my comic working career, I was just like, no, that's not fair. You shouldn't get to buy them all.
No, other people need this.
Right. There are people who are reading Edge of Spider-Verse that if you buy them all are not going to get to read that part now. I hate when they do that in the middle of a miniseries, right? They did that with Punchline too, and everybody freaked out about Punchline. Mm-hmm. It was like Year of the Villain #2 or something, number 3, where she first appears, and it's a cameo. It's not even a full appearance. She's like, Joker calls her on the phone, and we cut to like one panel of her on the phone, and that was it. That was the appearance. And so a bunch of people came in that week and were just like, there's no Year of the Villain #3. It's like, I've got 1 and 2. I got to read #3, you know? But now they can't because crazy people bought every copy to make $50 a pop off them.
Had a customer who got, I think he said seven copies of Walking Dead 1 in a back issue sale for 50 cents a pop.
Sure.
And he was like, dude, I sold my last, this was probably 10 years ago that I was talking to him about it. He's like, I sold my last one for, $7,500 or something crazy. And I was just like, well, you fucking cleaned house, bro. Because if you got a bunch of a book that nobody gave a flying fuck about,
sure,
and just it was the right one, right time, right place, good on you, man.
Right.
Good on
my
you.
My thoughts on the whole matter, like I said, are just they've evolved over the years, right? It's like, yeah, whatever, I'll take your money, and I don't care that you're gonna make $50 off of that book. But I think there's still like the thought to say too is one to read, one to sell.
Sure. And I think that's fair.
Right? I did that when I was a kid. I have 2 copies of Ultimate Spider-Man #1 in my collection. I have 2 copies of Ultimate X-Men #1 in my collection. Why? In case I ever wanted to sell one. I never did. I still have them. So I don't know what the point of that was, but I've definitely been a guy that's bought 2 copies of things before thinking, well, maybe one day I'll sell one. But I don't want to sell the only one I have.
Right.
I don't want to sell the extra one that I never touched, that I put in a bag and board, and I sealed it away, and I never touched it.
That's where it gets hard. Okay, It gets hard because, if you have your copy of something, it's like, oh. Like first,
Ultimate Fallout #4. I only have 1. I can't sell that. I won't have it.
What is it? Secret Wars 8, first appearance Black Suit Spider-Man. I have one of those. I got it for next to nothing. Book's not in great shape, but I could grade it and it would be a few $100s.
Sure.
And I'm just like, man.
But no, it's the only one I got.
I can't get rid of that book ever. When it just so happened, I was probably 10 years old. I went into a comic shop and they had back issue sale, and I bought Secret Wars 1 through 6.
Sure.
They didn't have anything after that. And I was like, oh, fuck, that sucks. But I bought all those because I was like, this is so cool. I have this little piece of history here. I wish I had the next 2.
Yeah.
Didn't get it for fucking, 15 years after that, but it kicked ass when I got it, man. I was so stoked.
Yeah. So once I have more time to go through those boxes, I imagine I'll find more stuff like that. Right? Because most of the stuff we're going to put in the drawers, sell it for $1.
Right.
You shouldn't pay more for a back issue. You should pay less for a back issue.
Yes.
Right? So they're going to be $1. But when it comes to, things like first appearances and most of that shit Paul probably took out of there.
Sure.
But occasionally I might come across something and I'm going to tell him I have it, right? I want to be above board and I want to say, hey, I just wanted to let you know. That's why I called him about the Star Wars thing. Like, hey, I just wanted to let you know.
I have something.
This is actually valuable. Do you want it back? And I imagine most of the time he'll say, nah, right? Because it's just not worth it or it's not that valuable or whatever. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to take those things, bag and board them, put them in a case, and hang them on the wall at a higher premium.
Sure.
Right? Because even though, just as an example, right, that Star Wars sells for $90, $100. Mm-hmm. Well, so if I were to put that on the wall, I would have $30 on it, right? I'm not going to sell it for $90, $100, but I'm going to sell it for more than $1.
Right.
Right? There's definitely people that have brought boxes in, and this is why I will never not look through a box, because John Perks bought comics from a guy and just didn't even look, sight unseen, put them with 25-cent comics. All 12 issues of Watchmen were in that box.
No fucking way.
And a guy got them for $0.25 a piece. And I was so angry.
Oh my God.
I was so angry. Not only because we could have got more out of them, but I would have taken them.
Right. You're like, I would have bought those.
I will pay more than $0.25 a piece for them. Like, what are you talking about? This is all 12 issues of Watchmen in pretty good shape. They were bagged and boarded and everything. They're in pretty decent shape. And we sold them for $0.25 apiece.
Motherfucker.
Guy came up and he said, these are $0.25, right? And I was like, no. Where did you get those? And he was like, out of that quarter box over there. And I was just like, John.
Yes, they're $0.25.
And from that moment on, I said, John, you're not allowed to do that anymore. If you buy a box, you put it in the back until I get a chance to look through it.
There you go. That's for you guys. You guys need to go out there and fucking check those back issues.
Yeah, you can find some gems, man.